All right, welcome into another episode of the Goodman and Hummel podcast. I'm Jeff Goodman. He is Robbie Hummel, and man, you continue to grind. You amaze me right now, Rob, because
for what?
For all your laziness over the off season, I think somebody, maybe Doster's kicked your ass in gear a little bit here. I don't know.
I mean, Doster could really light a fire if I would get paid more. That would I would be doing podcasts left and right if I could get a raise. But, he's tight with that checkbook.
He is tight with the checkbook. He's got some money coming in from the almanac. And again, if you're not paying attention, go get the almanac. You still got a couple more weeks here before the season starts. So go to my Twitter feed at Goodman Hoops at the Field of 68, and you can purchase what is the best way to get geared up and really get organized before the season and find out all the movement team to team.
That's going to be the hardest part, is keeping track of where these people go. I mean, that's the thing that stinks about the portal to me, even though I am all for kids being able to leave, especially if coaches leave, or if you're a junior and you've been there for 2 years and it hasn't worked out. I don't necessarily love like leaving at the first sign of trouble that we're probably seeing more so now. I think there is some value to sticking it out, but keeping track of guys now and where they go is a challenge. So that's where the almanac is going to be really good for that.
Hey, has your number been retired at Purdue?
It's not retired, but they have a banner for anybody that was a first or second team All-American or scored 2,000 points. So
how many guys have the numbers retired at Purdue? Do you know?
Probably legitimately 2, but
Mountain Big Dog?
Mountain Big Dog. I think you'd have to at least call them and ask. I don't know if anybody actually has it retired. They just hang a banner if you're an All-American or you scored 2,000 points. But that's a good question. I think if you wanted to wear Rick Mount's number, you'd have to at least call him and get permission.
Who's worn it? What number was it?
Bobby Riddell wore it. It was 10.
Oh, come on.
And I think
Bobby Riddell wore Rick Mount's number?
Well, then his sophomore year, he was 11. And I love Bobby. And Bobby could hoop. Bobby, for his size, I mean, I love him to death. He's one of my best friends. He's probably –
That's funny, though.
He's probably 5'11", maybe 6 foot. But
nobody should ever be allowed to wear Rick Mount's number.
No, and Big Dog too. Big Dog scored 1,000 points in a season. I mean, that's incredible. He averaged 30. It's there's a couple guys that have done that. Averaged 30 a game, but I mean,
can you get Big Dog on our pod?
No.
Why not?
I've only met him one time.
Come on.
Yeah, and I broke my hand against the Atlanta Hawks on Pero Antich's chest, reaching for a rebound at the end of the third quarter, trying to pad my stats, and I just reach in and break my left hand. My right hand. And he was there because he lives in Atlanta, and Glenn Robinson III was on our team. So that was the first time I'd ever met him. And I talked to him for maybe a minute, and that was it. So
we got to work on that. I mean,
I would put that at the lowest possibility of anyone we could get on this podcast.
Wow. You're making it a challenge for me now.
I think I heard him do something, whether it was All the Smoke with those guys, or he was on that, I believe. That's the only thing I've ever heard him do.
There's no issues between him and Purdue, though, right?
No, I don't think so. I mean, him and Coach Payne play together. They're good. Yeah. He's been back to a game or two within the last 5 or 10 years, because I think his youngest son was playing football at Purdue.
Right.
But yeah, they're fine. I just think he kind of lives in Atlanta and just does his own thing.
All right. Well, a guy who is accessible, who we've got today on the pod, who is terrific and has a great team. I mean, we're knocking out some good pods with some of the top coaches.
Yeah, absolutely.
We had Kelvin Sampson the other day.
Kind of refreshing that these are teams that aren't necessarily always the teams that are ranked number one.
Love it.
That,
right.
You see so much of it's the Dukes, the Carolinas, the Kansases, but it's a little bit different this year.
Exactly. And with that, we bring you Creighton head coach Greg McDermott.
Breaking news. The Field of 68 has an online store, and it's your one-stop shop for the latest and greatest merch in college basketball and college football. You can find shirts to support your favorite team, make fun of your rival team, or boast Field of 68 catchphrases like Daddy Brad, Cussin' and Discussin', and the Star Heels. Go to www.fieldof68.shop today and enter promo code touchdown for 20% off at checkout.
All right, now pleased to welcome in none other than Creighton head coach Greg McDermott. And Mac, the first thing I got to ask you is, obviously, you know my relationship with your kid and Doug, and you guys took me years ago to the Drover. Still one of the best steaks I've ever had. But how's your kid doing? How's Doug doing out in San Antonio?
Well, first of all, the Drover's still alive and well. You'd be happy to know, but Doug's doing great. It's a certainly a different role, being one of the older guys on the team. I think 10 of their 20 guys in camp are 20 years old or below. So he's having an opportunity to have a veteran presence on a very young team. And he goes back to guys like Joakim Noah and Heinrich and Dunleavy and the guys that he played with early in his career that had an impact on him. So it's obviously they're in rebuilding mode, but he's in his 9th year in the NBA, and he's pretty appreciative to be in that spot.
I think it's amazing that he is considered a veteran now. I mean, and we're about the same age. It doesn't feel like we're that old, but it goes so quick in basketball years. I mean, I hope Doug's the guy that's the veteran that's handing out $100 to go get some chapstick, like Kevin Martin was for me, and keep the change. I'm sure Doug's doing that too.
Yeah. No, he's 30, and it is hard to believe. And obviously he went to San Antonio a year ago and loves that organization. The culture of that organization is terrific. So, I'm selfishly, for me, for him to have the opportunity to play for Coach Pop, is something that's pretty cool, because I can pick Doug's brain on, how Pop handles certain situations, but he's one of the best of all time. And for Doug to be mentored by him is pretty special.
Coach, most importantly, go ahead, Joe.
I just want to know which one of the two of you knuckleheads has played more rounds of golf this offseason.
It's close. Doug's played a lot as well.
No, I mean the other guy on this podcast right now. I don't mean Doug or you. I mean Hummel.
Throw Doug in there too. Sure.
Yeah.
I think Robbie just probably got done hitting balls before we jumped on this podcast. But it's, and Robbie will tell you, Jeff, it's just, for me, it's golf is a release.
Yes.
You turn that cell phone off and you kind of unhook from the world for a little bit. And the game is humbling, just about the time you figure it out, you think you have it figured out and you hit a few good shots, and you're back to not being very good again. So it's, I really enjoy it. And, you have to have some athletic ability, Jeff, that's why Rob and I can play and you can't.
Yeah,
facts. That is
Listen,
true.
No, the reason I don't play much is because, unlike you, I can't turn my damn phone off. I should, but it's not relaxing for me if I'm looking.
And you suck.
Yeah,
and you shoot 100.
If I played as much as the two of you, I would be as good as the two of you.
No, you wouldn't.
No chance.
All right, fine, yeah. Fair. I'll let you get away with that. All right, start me out about Kalkbrenner and Nembhard. And I know you told me a while ago they were healthy. Are they 100%? Is the rust off? What do they look like so far in practice?
They look good. We're 3 days in, but obviously the Kalkbrenner's injury was not as severe as we were, as fearful as we were when it happened. So by the middle to end of May, he was back doing some things on the court, and really by July 1st, he was full go. So he's added some muscle. He looks good. Defensively, he's terrific. And I just think the confidence that he got from last year is really carried over into this season. And then Nembhard is, that's a pretty significant injury, especially on your shooting wrist. But by middle of July, end of July, he was back in the court doing some stuff. And now you're just trying to catch up from those 2 or 3 months you missed with the timing and the conditioning and everything that goes with that. But I'm very pleased with where they're both at. And obviously they're very important pieces to what we're trying to do.
Coach, I was there in Fort Worth when Ryan got hurt against San Diego State. How surprised, and also how important was it for you guys to then go toe-to-toe with Kansas without Nembhard and Kalkbrenner? I mean, were you surprised you were able to, and what kind of confidence boost did that give you guys?
This team last year, Robbie, nothing really surprised me as we moved forward. And And part of it is we had gone through it during the year. We lost Sharif Mitchell in December. At UConn, I thought was really a turning point in our season. Down 4 or 5 points, 15 minutes to go. Kalkbrenner blows an ankle and can't play the rest of the game. So we kind of have to go to a makeshift lineup with Kaluma at the 5. We really hadn't practiced it much and found a way to win that game. And then we lost Kaluma for 4 games in February, won all 4. Then we lose Nemhart, and Trey steps into that role. So I think because we'd been through it so much where we lost really key components to our team and we had to figure out a way to compete and be successful without those pieces. When it happened, and as devastating as it was in the NCAA tournament to lose Kalkbrenner, I think our guys like, all right, here we go again. We got to figure out a way to, somebody else is going to have to step up. We have to figure out a way to hang in this game. And, I think the fact that we hadn't played a game with that sort of lineup, Kansas really didn't know what to expect either. So I think the element of surprise there was probably in our favor, but our guys competed their tails off like they did all year. And I'm really proud. You talk about playing through adversity all the time, but can a team really do it? And this group of guys last year certainly answered the bell every time it happened.
Yeah, I mean, Kalkbrenner back, Nemhard back. Obviously, Kaluma Alexander was really good down the stretch. You lost some guys too. I mean, you lost the kind of leader of your team, Hawkins, who, to me was just invaluable what he brought, both on and off the court. You bring in a huge transfer, Baylor Shireman. I saw him in the NCAA tournament, kind of fell in love with him for his game, right? His size, his ability to pass the ball, make people better. He could shoot it. He was considered one of the probably the best transfer additions in the portal this year. What role do you foresee him playing on this team? Because he had the ball in his hands a lot at South Dakota State.
Yeah, and to your point, we did lose some important pieces of last year's team. Alex O'Connell became a terrific defensive player, and his ability to run down and challenge shots late and make him difficult was really elite. He rebounded his position extremely well. And as you mentioned, Hawkins did a great job for us. And then Keyshawn Fizel was a great leader in his own right as well. So we have to figure out how to replace that. And I think Baylor can bring some of that because of the success that he's had. But what's been refreshing with him, Jeff, is, you're bringing him into a team where really 4 starters return. And when you bring a guy in that has some pretty gaudy numbers and he's pretty highly thought of, how's it going to fit? And it's fit great because of Baylor's willingness to move the basketball.
Yeah.
He is a very willing passer, and as good a shooter as he is and as crafty as he is as a scorer, I think he's equally as good as a passer. And, he doesn't need to dominate the basketball. And obviously you got to guard him 8 feet behind the line because he's got that Mitch Ballack type range behind the line. So we're going to be able to do some interesting things with him. And people I think forget, like he's 6'6", 6'7". He's got good size. He rebounds his position well. And I think it's a seamless fit into our style of play and our system.
Coach, you've had some really good teams at Creighton. The team with Doug certainly comes to mind, the Sweet 16 team 2 years ago. Do you think this is your best team?
Yeah. I think depth-wise, potentially. The team with Maurice Watson, Marcus Foster, Kyrie Thomas, Justin Patton, there's a couple draft picks on that team. And Maurice Watson was having, you could argue his year that year before he tore his ACL, was maybe playing as well as any point guard in college basketball. So that was a really good team. We were 17 or 18-1 and ranked in the top 10 before Maurice went down. But this team has a chance to be at that level. And I think part of it is some of our depth, to bring a, Sharif Mitchell, who, we'll see how everything works out if he ends up coming off the bench. But, that's a guy that was playing 20 minutes a game on a Sweet 16 team 2 years ago and playing well. Francisco Farabello is a guy that probably not enough people are talking about. He finished a lot of games at TCU last year as their 6th man and can really shoot the basketball and really understands how to play. So now I have 2 guys that are 4th-year players that potentially could be coming off the bench for us in that guard court, which is a plus. And Mike Miller's son Mason has really made a good jump from last year to this year with the red shirt. And Frederick King, the young freshman from the Bahamas, has a chance to really bolster that front line as well. So I like the group. Can we play together the way we're going to need to play, and will we keep a hold of that defensive mindset that was so important to our success last year?
You and I have known each other a long time. I've known Doug a long time. I know your wife. I've met your daughter. I know what you went through last March, right? It was about a year and a half ago, and you were suspended for making a comment that you came forward and said, I screwed up. I also know Marcus Zagorowski's family well, and they went to bat for you. Everybody in the team went to bat for you for the most part, saying this isn't who you were. How hard was that for you? And did you think coming out of that, was there a chance that you thought, hey, you know what? This might be it for me. I might not be able to coach again. This could be the end of it.
Well, certainly when you're, because we were, add to it, it's during the pandemic. So everybody's holed up in a hotel room somewhere. So, the team they were all in a room by themselves. I was by myself. I wasn't at home with my family because we had separated ourselves really in the third week in February as we got closer to the Big East tournament NCAA run, that we weren't going to take a chance with COVID. So we really were isolated. So there's a lot of alone time, obviously, and a lot of time to reflect. And certainly I'd learned a lot from it. And, I think one of the things that you learned from something like that is, number one, you don't have to be intentional to be hurtful. And certainly my intentions weren't to hurt anybody. But I did. And I had to deal with that with some of the guys on my team that trusted me, that looked at me as a mentor, and I had to repair those relationships and build back that trust. And I think I've done that. The other thing is when something like that happens, the people in the media have a way of digging into your past the best they can and see if they can try to find a pattern of behavior. And fortunately, I've tried to live my life the right way, so they weren't able to find a pattern of behavior when they talked to guys that have played for me at the many schools that I've coached. So I'm happy and thankful that the university stuck behind me, and some of my coaches stuck around, and we were able to put together this recruiting class of Nemhard, Alexander, Kaluma, Mason Miller. That bunch was during that pandemic, during that time. So you become a person that's a result of everything that you've been through in your life, and that was certainly a very difficult time for me, but a time of growth as well as I look back on it. And I've tried to help some other people and some organizations that are maybe wrestling with how to best educate their companies and their employees, and what I went through, and it was all obviously self-inflicted, but what did I learn from it, and how can I help other people because of a mistake that I've made? And I've attempted to do that the best that I can.
Coach, you had the unique opportunity to coach your son at the collegiate level, which most coaches don't get to do. What are the challenges of that? Did you and Doug ever have times where you wanted to kill each other? Because I know there are times with every college player and their coach where you're like, this guy is an asshole.
Yeah.
This guy's being an asshole.
He probably had more of those times than I did.
Oh, he told me about him. Hey, he told me about him.
Yeah, and there's a few times that we went nose to nose, and some of them were on national television. Unfortunately, my wife has reminded me on several occasions. But the big thing with him, and I've said this before, Robbie, when he was a freshman, he came to me early in the practice season and said, "Dad, you have to treat me like everybody else." Mm-hmm. And I thought about it, and I came back to him and I said, I can do that. But when I tell you need to block out, you can't look at me like I asked you to take the garbage out and you don't want to do it. You can't give me that son look like, Dad, get off my back. And I think the challenge was that first year for Doug is for 18 years, this guy's voice has been my father's voice, and now it's my coach's voice. Mm-hmm. And they're two different things. And once he understood that, then it was awesome. And I think a a lot of scouts told us as they came in as sophomore, junior, senior year to watch, like, Mac, if I didn't know you guys were father and son, there's no way by the way you guys interact and practice that I would know that. So that's the way he wanted it. And, it was obviously a blessing for me because being in the profession I was in, I didn't get to go to all of his games. I didn't get to coach him when he was young because I was recruiting and coaching my own teams. So not only to be there for that incredible run that he had as a college athlete, but also every practice and watching, being part of his development was really rewarding for me. And I think Doug and I probably both appreciate it the farther you get away from it and you look back on it. It was a pretty special time in our lives.
Listen, I'll tell you this too, having a daughter now that's a plane ride away as a freshman in college, to have them there, to have them there every day, to be able to see them is special. And I'm sure you learned that, not just the coaching, but, again, I guess the only thing I would say to that is, do you feel like, did you ever feel like in a way he should have went away from you and away from Creighton to maybe be more independent, or no?
Well, no, because he couldn't defend. So I hid that in his game. I joke with Coach Jake all the time. If he would have went over to play for you at Northern Iowa, you'd have made him play defense and all that stuff. And who knows what would have happened. But no, I think we're both glad it transpired the way that it did. And, the different part is that, obviously if had he gone somewhere else, when you're having those tough days, the phone call comes to me. Well, now I'm the coach. And to Robbie's point, I'm the one he's mad at. Now, who does he call? And my wife had to sort through some of that and take some of those calls and tell me what I needed to know, but also probably not tell me a lot of things. But it worked out great. And to help him navigate the process of whether to come back for a senior year or enter the draft, and just providing him all that information. And it really helped me to help the guys that I'm coaching now, because I went through it with my own son.
Yeah. So you're 57. A guy named Jay Wright retired a couple months ago at 60. How much did it surprise you, and what does it do for the Big East? Because I think a lot of people think it opens it up, and I know the poll hasn't come out yet, but you're going to be picked number one in the Big East in the preseason this year.
Yeah, I mean, Jay said a couple things to me during the year. Now that I look back at him, like he was thinking about it then probably, but I kind of just brushed him off. He was so critical, Jeff, to when we formed this new league, 9 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever it was, he was adamant in those meetings and on the calls, like, we have to be united. We can't have a bunch of coaches throwing darts at each other. Like, if this league's going to work, everybody's got to put the league first. And, Jay was probably the one that had a program in a place that wouldn't have had to act like that, but he did. And I think it allowed us to navigate some challenging times when the league was beginning. And he really, set the league on course with his leadership for where we are today. So that void is going to be difficult to fill, because the two old guys now are Cooley and I, and, you're Dumb and Dumber there. So, I don't know that the league is in great hands, but, Kyle's going to do a great job at Villanova. He was an assistant there for Jay for a long time, and obviously I thought did a really good job at Fordham in the 1 year he was there. But Thad Mata's now in the league. Sean Miller's in the league. The change at Seton Hall is, he did a tremendous job at St. Peter's. So it's going to be a great league again. And but Jay's leadership really set us on a course to have success. And you
guys were tight though. As a coaching group, I would agree with that. You were the tightest I've ever seen of a league, because you never heard a bad word. In fact, I thought you were all boys, like all of you.
Yeah, everybody got along really well, and we're going to compete against each other, and you're in recruiting battles against each other on occasion. But at the end of the day, and again, Jay was the one, like, guys, we have to put this league first. If it's going to work, we have to check our egos at the door, and we have to put the league first. And he was right. And and I hope we can maintain that in his absence. And because, we have to sing the praises of this league. It's basketball centric. It makes it fun. And, there's been a lot of changes in the college athletics landscape the last year or the last 6 months. And the Big East has been pretty stable. And that's credit to the leadership of the league and certainly Jay's leadership.
Coach, I'm going to ask you a question and the answer cannot be because the players are good. But why are you such a good offensive coach? Why do your teams play so free and open and well on the offensive end of the floor?
It's we recruit to it. Number one, being able to handle it, pass it, shoot it, and have an understanding of how to play is really important to us in the recruiting process. And sometimes it's a give and take. You might want to be a little longer, a little bit more athletic, but do we want to sacrifice the skill? And we've really stuck to that. And then I think once guys get here, everybody says they want to play fast, Robbie, until I make them play fast. Like playing fast.
Do they really realize hard. They got to run their ass off every possession?
Yeah, it's really hard to do that. And but I think once guys get here, they enjoy the freedom that the system provides. And if you're going to play fast, the hardest part for me, and Jeff knew me when I was at Northern Iowa, like I didn't think necessarily like our overall talent level. We had some really good players, but were we in the top 3 or 4 in the league? Maybe not. So we kind of controlled everything. We ran a 200 set plays, and there were counters to everything. And when I kind of let go of that and started to play a little bit more free and a little faster, the hardest thing for me was when you play that way, you're going to make more mistakes. Mm-hmm. But 12 turnovers in a 75 possession game is better than 9 turnovers in a 52 possession game. Sure. So I had to understand that if I'm asking these guys to play fast, they're going to have to take some chances, and it's okay to make a mistake. And, most kids, if they really think about it, a lot of people think guys want to be able to take the shots they want to take. And there's probably some truth to that. But I think at the end of the day, players want to know that a coach is going to allow them to play through mistakes. And that's what we've tried to do here. And there's another possession coming pretty fast, so you can't think about the mistake you just made. Just move on. And we have some fun on the practice floor. And there's a lot of pressure when you have 17,000 people at every game to win. And we try not to bring that pressure into our building. I try not to coach the joy out of the game. And I think there was probably a point in my career when I was younger that I was a stickler for everything. And guys probably like, I don't want to play for this guy. Like everything has to be perfect. Well, everything doesn't have to be perfect. And at the end of the day, guys have to enjoy playing. And I think if there's joy to what they're doing, I'm probably going to get the best version of them. And, it took me some time as a coach to realize that. And frankly, I really enjoy it. I enjoy the system. It's fun to coach. It's fun to get guys to run like that and to get spacing. And when you see a guy that's a really good shooter turn down a pretty good look to get his teammate a better look, that's gratifying to me. And that part of practice for me is very enjoyable and very rewarding.
What do you remember about December 2007 Iowa State Purdue at the Orleans Arena? Maybe other than that was a terrible basketball game that we both were involved in.
That was not a good basketball game. I've tried to forget most of my experience at Iowa State, as have the fans at Iowa State have tried to forget that 4-year period. But as I look back on it, I made some mistakes. I probably you think you're ready for that job, and maybe I wasn't. And I had some really good players, and I just didn't do a very good job of putting the group together.
I want to say, Coach, Wes Johnson, Craig Brackens, and who was your guard again?
Well, we had Mike Taylor for a while.
Yeah.
We ended up playing a little bit in the NBA. Deontay Garrett.
Yes, that's who it was.
Had a cup of coffee in the NBA as well. But we had some good players. We couldn't really keep it together. And again, I think I grew from that experience and approached the Creighton job, I think, a lot different. Because I kind of got my teeth kicked in there. And, there's not a lot of great memories about the Big 12. We had Durant, Beasley, Blake, and Blake. That was my 4 years. That was really enjoyable. And Kansas won a national championship during that time. So the Big 12 was loaded at that time, but it was a growing experience. But you're right, that Purdue Iowa State game was not. I don't think the ratings were great.
No, we were oozing confidence coming in off of a loss from at home against Wofford. So we were really a confident group.
What year?
2007, December 07.
I gotta look up the box score on that one. All right, we're gonna finish with this. So I think I have you preseason like number 3. I think I've Carolina, Houston, you guys. A lot of people are surprised at that when they see Creighton, top 5 preseason. Do you think, or maybe why do you think this Creighton team can finally go to the Final Four?
I like the makeup of our group, and expectations are expectations, whether they're good or bad. Last year we were picked 8th or 9th, and you don't pay a lot of attention to that. And this year everybody thinks we're great, and you try not to pay a lot of attention to that. But when there are lofty expectations, you have to make sure you put in the work to back that up. Like, as long as we're continuing to grow and we're continuing to get better, that stuff will sort itself out in the end. And this group has never been afraid of extra work. They're in the gym all the time. They want to watch film. They want to grow. They want to learn. They want to get better. And as long as we maintain that, and we can, because we made as much progress from November 9th or 10th when we were down 12 to Arkansas Pine Bluff at halftime in our building. And I'm walking to that locker room thinking, I got to play 30 more of these games. How are we going to win with this team? To how we played in March. Like, the growth was incredible. And if we can even come close to that kind of progress from now until March, then we have a chance. You get in the tournament, you get a decent seed, you get the right matchups, like, things can happen. And you have to stay healthy. And that's kind of been the bugaboo for us here at Creighton. We've lost some really critical players to some of our really good teams at the wrong time of the year. So hopefully we can stay healthy, and we'll have great support here of our fan base, and we'll see what happens. But this is going to be an enjoyable group for me to coach because they're about the right stuff.
No doubt. By the way, I'm going to send both of you a video. You guys ripping on my athleticism. I had a triple the other night in softball, and it's not old man softball anymore. I'm playing like the team flipped, so it's like 23-year-olds now. A triple, legged it out, a stand-up triple. Didn't even have to slide.
Playing in the 23 F League doesn't mean shit compared to the 65 A League. That doesn't matter.
I'm sure there was the guy bobbled or got his foot stuck under the fence.
He did overrun it in right field. I went out.
The guy broke his leg in right field, and just couldn't get it back.
And you have to remember, it doesn't matter about the other players. If you're playing, it's old man softball. It doesn't matter how old your teammates are.
Very true. I do make it old man softball, no doubt, no doubt. Well, listen, thanks for coming on. We appreciate it. Looking forward to seeing you this year. I might see you at Big East Media Day as well. But again, fun team to watch this year. I think you're going to enjoy them, and I think we all are too. And like you said, knock on wood, just stay healthy.
Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. Always good to catch up.
Likewise.
Thanks,
all right,
Coach.
take care.